Okay, in this video, we are going to do a deep dive into the architectural set, into the A plans. And what are the A plans? How do they differ from the others? And what does everything in it mean? You have to make sure, first of all, that you know how to navigate through the set. If you are an estimator, for sure, but I know a lot of contractors that really aren't comfortable going from sheet to sheet to sheet. And so in this series, we are going to go from sheet to sheet to sheet and explain everything. Okay, so when we look at the A plans, we are going to do an exercise where we talk about the views. So in the views, as in, that show where all the ladies are and they gossip, yeah, the views. And there are four views, and a view is basically it's a perspective. It's what the way that you're looking at the sheet. And if you understand how you're looking at the sheet, then you will understand better how to make your measurements and how to uh, do your material quantities correctly, and you will know every aspect of your project to reduce any construction defect. I was a construction defect litigation adjuster for 10 years, and what we had to do was pay out claims from homeowners. And the mere fact that, oh, they left out the plywood or they left out the waterproof, that was indication that they couldn't read the plans. And so, yes, you end up causing a lot of damage as a contractor if you're not proficient in reading the plans. Okay, and so what we're going to start with today, or right now, and we're going to go through the whole sheet. So it will be an extensive exercise for you, and I hope you enjoy it. And I'll be taking breaks temporarily on my end. Hopefully you won't be able to tell that. So I can accurately record the times that I'm starting each sheet so you can navigate through more easily. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to review the title sheet or the cover sheet. Title sheet, cover sheet, it's all the same, I think, no matter what, just know those are two of the same things. And what the cover sheet does, it tells us about the project. It gives us all the details we need to know: what trades are required, the location of the project, when the plans, or if they were approved and permitted for construction. That's a very important thing to know. The cover sheet gives you the legal requirements, which are the name, which is, I should say, requirements are plural, so which are the name of the owner and all of the architect and all of the engineers that put the set together. That's a legal requirement that it has to be on the title sheet. And then you see that they give you some symbols and coding information based on your state. And then we also see a kind of a map quest, or Google map quest shows how old I am. Google Maps view of the project. And we also have on the lower right an isometric view, meaning the view, if once we're finished, this is what we want it to look like. Okay, so let's go in deeper. Let's focus on the right band. Okay, so the right band is positioned in this way, as opposed to it's vertical, right, as opposed to horizontal, because back in the day, before all the cell phones, we can have everything on our phone. We definitely had to have a set of plans on site, which you still do, but it's oriented that way so we could just flip up the corner, see the sheet number, and just pull that sheet out, instead of maybe the number being up here, or somewhere else where we'd have to go through every sheet. Okay, and so the right band gives us information about the project location. It should again give us indication that the sheets have been approved and have been permitted, and the date. Okay, and that's the right band. Now, the sheet index gives us a lot of good information because it will tell us, if we're the project manager, what trades we need. And it gives us as just a regular contractor, right? You know, if you're doing utilities or you're doing foundation work, you know, oh, I can bid on this one because it has a foundation, it has a structural set, it has a civil set. And so we know by looking at the sheets that are comprised within the sheet index list of sheets comprised within the set, we can tell what trades we need. Project manager can solicit the right contractors for bidding day. Okay. And so, yeah, sheet index, vital information. What what uh, what contractors do I need? Gives us all of that information. So each set of plans, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, the structural set, they all have cover sheets, but this is the project main, the main cover sheet that gives us all the information, okay? So the sheet index, all the sheets comprised within the set, we can tell what contractors we need, we can look and see, oh, it's a foundation. We're putting in the foundation, we're putting in roof framing, all of that. Well, we know it's from the ground up. We have a civil set. There's a utility plan. Utilities are the underground water, sewer, power. Well, that tells me it's just a lump of dirt at this location, and we are building everything from the ground up. So, for instance, if you're a contractor that, foundation, concrete, you know if you can handle that scope of work too by looking at the sheet. It may be too big for you to handle at that point in your professional business career. So the sheet gives you a lot of good information. Okay. Uh, Applicable codes based on the state. You know all about that. And so if you're a traveling contractor, if you have multi-license in different states, you should know the coding for your state. Okay, so a whole bunch of stuff based on, and this is all legal requirement that has to be on the cover sheet. What also has to be there, legal requirement, is the owner's information and all of the architects and engineers that help to put the set together. Okay, so that also has to be on the title sheet. Symbols are there, boilerplate, some there may be some words in the set that you don't even have an abbreviation for. Okay, so it's boilerplate, meaning it goes in every set of plans. And so it is useful, but each individual set also has abbreviations. So look there first before you look on the main. And then the Google Maps showing us the location. If you're traveling, if you want to, you're in LA and you think you want to do this, well, you kind of get approximation of what freeway you got to take. Okay, so yeah, title sheet gives us all the information we need about the project. Right band oriented in such a way so we can look at the sheet number on the lower right and just pull out the sheet we want. We have the sheet index, which is all the sheets comprised within the full project. We can take a look at that and say, oh, project's too big for me, or okay, I can work on this one because, hey, it has a foundation. Hey, it has a utility plan. I'm an excavator. This is perfect for me, you know? Or I'm a demolition contractor and there is no interior demolition, right? Because there's no building there. But you could also look on the site plan to see if some portion of, there may be something that they want demoed up out of the ground. Okay, so you want to look at that too, along with the specifications, of course. Okay, so abbreviations, Google Maps, isometric view. This is what it's going to look like when it's finished. Okay, nothing's to scale here, so you can't use it for that. It's just for total information. Owner, architect, engineers comprised that help put the set together, and some basic symbols that we're going to use. Where I talked about plan view, section view, detail view, all of the views. These are the symbols that are associated with those views. And so you have to be able to identify, say, oh, that's the section view marker. What does that mean to me? What does that help me see? Okay, and we learn that best, I think, in the architectural set. So, architectural set, cover sheet. Very simple, everything we need. Also has a list of the other trades, right? The MEPs are here too. So, because this is the main sheet, you are always going to have the list of MEPs in here too. So you know the full extent of the project. Okay, that is the title sheet. Okay, so the sheet we're looking at now and the next two, this sheet and the sheet after it, it's giving us some building specifications. So we know within every set of plans, they do try to put the basic specifications inside the set. But we always want to read the full specs related to our scope of work outside of this set because there may be things in the full set of specifications that we don't have here. So it's very important. They just give you kind of an idea, and this is the general building specifications. Okay, so yeah, it gives you the summary of work and all of that. But also, you have the all of the other specifications for the MEPs and all of that. And so general building specifications. Okay, all of the divisions. Okay, so they do their best to show you. They go from division 00, so general conditions, right? And this is more like main points, not bullet points, and that mostly main points, not bullet points, meaning under each one of these main points, there could be some bullet point information that you don't see here that you need to know. Okay. They try to give it to you by division, right? And it's just for general information, it's boilerplate. So, what you want to do is make sure you're looking in the actual set of specifications for your trade. You have to know which division is my trade. Okay, very important. All right, so it just we just go through what they have here. They're going to give us the division 7 metals division. Okay, they're going to give you everything. Okay, pretty much finishes. So if I'm a finish contractor, if I'm doing the drywall, okay, okay, gives us good information. So, depending on your trade, you want to know stuff like what level finish, that kind of stuff. But yes, you will have a few sheets, and here's the second one. And I'm not even going to go into detail with that. But yeah, you'll have them all the way down. You see, we're ending up division 28, 26. Oh, okay. 26. What does it tell you? See electrical plans. So each of the main divisions has its own. So the architectural set, which is the set we're reviewing right now, that is again, those are every the archi- let me stop. The architectural set shows us everything that goes in and on the building once the building has been constructed, minus the MEPs. So what goes in and on the building? The drywall, the interior framing, because the structural framing in the S plans, that's already there. Okay, structural framing is already there. We already have our roof, we already have our columns, right? We already have our foundation. Then we go into our architectural set is where we're closing in all the walls and we're putting in the insulation and we're finishing the drywall to a level of whatever, and then we're painting it and we're putting the ceiling finish on. That's the architectural set. Also in the architectural set is demolition. So if it's a tenant improvement, you will find D plans, AD, you'll see. Okay, architectural demolition. That's where you'll find your demo. Now, you may have demo also. If it's new construction, you may also have demo uh, in your civil set because, yeah, you may be getting rid of some, the building's been knocked down, but the parking lot's still there or something, so you may have to demo all of the concrete or asphalt or the pavement or whatever. Okay, so you want to make sure, demo, all your stuff is in the architectural set. All right. Now, let's look at the responsibility matrix because that is very important. Okay. Let me write that down. Responsibility matrix. All right. Well, it is what it is. It is exactly what it says it is. Who is responsible for what? Okay. And this is in terms of material and installation. Who's supplying material? Who's installing it? Okay. And it's vital that you look at your trade, electrician, HVAC, okay, plumbing, all every flooring, depending on the firm like McDonald's. Come on, they already have their own everything, right? You're probably just buying it from their supplier, and chances are they're already giving you the price for it. You just have to determine what your labor is for it. Okay, so responsibility matrix is telling us the item. So as you can see, let's do this. Okay, so we start with doors. Okay, overhead doors, aluminum, all the way down. Doors, hardware, and the glazing, the glass. Well, supplied by the GC, installed by the GC. Okay, so we know that the GC hires subs. Okay, sometimes the GC will do some of the scopes of work depending on, like, if this is a GC with a particular, license in his GC, he may do that portion. Okay, if he's a licensed in electrical, he may do the electrical where, yeah, the GC is going to do that, the GC's firm or whatever. Okay, but typically this just means the GC sub. Okay, so you want to make sure you're looking for that. Okay, so everything here it looks like MCW. I'm trying to figure out. Let's look at the. We'll go to those. We'll go to. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Mr. Car Wash. Mr. Car Wash. That's what it is. Okay, so the point of sale canopy is being provided by Mr. Car Wash, and the vendor is going to install it. Okay, where the point of sale canopy J bolts are supplied by the vendor, okay, but installed by the GC sub. Okay, that's how you read that. Okay, excuse my ignorance. I'm like, what project am I? Oh, Mr. Car Wash. Okay, all right. So that's how that goes. So this is what you want to look at. Okay, so let's look for the MEPs because that's what's very important. Okay, so looks like for the plumber, just the fire alarm. Okay, and water softener system. You won't have to worry about that. They're installing it and supplying it, and the eye wash drench hose units. They're supplying it, but the GC's plumber is going to install it. Okay. HVAC, let's look. Yep, all HVAC is GC. So, and let's look at electrical. That's what I'm always concerned with, electrical. If the electrician has to supply the lights, okay. The lighting can, oh, look. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I'd be bidding Mr. Car Wash all day if I was an electrician, right? They're supplying the panels, the transformer, the lighting control panel, meaning I don't have to go search for it and find it and make sure it's the right one. Ooh, I'd be doing that. Exterior lighting too? Oh no, I'd be all on Mr. Car Wash. All right. Look, interior lighting, Mr. Car Wash. Decorative lighting, Mr. Car Wash. That's what you want to look for, okay? Because that saves you being doing. That's how I started electrical estimates. What I tend to start at the hardest stuff, which is great. But yeah, the electrician doesn't want to have to worry about another $235,000 for Mr. Car Wash's lights fixtures. They really don't. But one thing I recommend is that when they are supplying it, contractor, you add a markup for the handling of it. Okay, because you still got to receive it, you got to unpack it, you got to throw away the trash. Okay, normally that's it. That's included when you are the provider. When you buy it, that's all included in your price because you mark it up. You have no you markup ability when you don't buy it. So I say add 15% to something for your handling of owner provided material, no matter what it is. Okay. So this was two sets of specifications and the responsibility matrix. Okay, we know what specs are. This is this is provided in every set of plans, but it may or may not be complete, and that it's up to you as the contractor to have a full, solid understanding of your scope of work, and where you will find that is in the actual specifications. Okay, and then we talked about the responsibility matrix, which is what? Who's supplying, who's installing. And when you see GC, just verify with the GC. Hey, it says GC. Do you guys do it, or would you like it? Or they already ask you for a proposal, right? But verify that first, because you'll go and do your demo estimate. It'd be so pretty and on point, and then you find out the GC's doing the demo himself. That's happened to me many times. Okay, so just verify. And responsibility matrix, very important, very important. Okay, so make sure electrician, okay, all the high cost stuff, okay, make sure. All right, so that is our conclusion. Specifications provided in the plans and the responsibility matrix. Okay, now we are going to discuss the next sheet in this set for Mr. Car Wash, which is the car wash equipment plan. Okay, so let's talk about plan. Okay, because in this, what we're looking at right here, we have two different views. And when we get to the floor plan, we're going to talk more about all of the views in total. Okay, but just know the plan view, we always say, send me the plans, da da da. Well, a plan view, the plan is a view. It's a particular way that you're looking at the sheet, or a particular way that the sheet is oriented. Okay, the plan view is the view from above. So it's the view as if you're riding in a helicopter. They took the roof off and now you can see down into the building. Okay, so this is the car wash plan. So we're looking down into the car wash tunnel, and it shows us where all of the car wash equipment will be located. Okay, and all of these ovals basically represent a number that represents that material or that equipment. And so we're going to go to the equipment schedule. It'll tell us all about it, and then we'll know. Okay, so this is a car wash, so a lot of the equipment is being installed maybe by the GC, as we talked about, responsibility schedule. That means the GC sub, or it's going to be installed by vendors. Okay, and this also comes with a responsibility matrix. So let's just look at, I just want you to be able to know what you're looking at. So we're looking at the plan view from above. We see the equipment over here. Okay, this is all the equipment, and it's noted to be something. And everybody's been through a car wash, so it's a bunch of stuff filled with soap and water and, wax or whatever. Okay, so we're looking down here, and seems to be the admin part of the project, where we have the business office. So we're looking down, right? So the framer can basically measure all of the lines that they see. Okay, if I'm the framer and I want to know, okay, I got to frame this building. Well, yeah, the plan view is the view that you need to measure how many linear feet of wall you need to measure. Perfect. But what you don't get from a plan view is the height. Now, if you reviewed the title sheet video, yeah, it said the height of the building is 32 feet. That means nothing in terms of framing. Okay, and so, yeah, there's got to be another view I look at for me as the plumber to say, what's the height of these walls? But there is another view, and we'll see that later. Okay, but what we're looking at right here is the plan view for the car wash equipment. Here's the tunnel that the cars go through. We see all the little brushes and stuff. And then the equipment and mechanical room where all the equipment is located that supplies whatever it come, whatever it is. And then the office. Okay. So depending on your trade, you're going to look at that set of plans. If you're the electrician, oh, it's crazy. I've already started looking at it. You just want to have a good idea of what you're looking at. Okay. So this is easy. Now, this view, right? This is the elevation view. That's another view, right? We have plan view, we have section view, we have elevation view, and we have detail view. Okay, elevation view is what we're looking at here, meaning it's as if we're standing next to it. It elevates it like real life. Okay, so I know if I'm installing or whatever this equipment, I know how it should be placed. I know what it looks like. I know that 1E and 1E are next to each other, but I knew that from the plan view above. Okay, so the plan view is looking from up here down into the equipment, and now they rose the equipment up, and now we can see it as if we're in that room where the equipment is. Okay, elevation view, standing it up, making it real life. The door. So now if from this view, I can, if the plans are to scale, which they are, I can tell that the building where the equipment is this height. So that'll help me a little bit. So let me go ahead and for every 1/4 of an inch I measure, right? That's what scale means. Depending on, and every sheet could be a different scale, so when you are measuring, make sure you're using the right scale. For every 1/4 of an inch I measure, I'm really measuring 1 foot. All right, so I have it to scale. This is to scale. So this tells me if the plans are to scale, which they are, everything I measure is going to be accurate. Okay, so I just want to measure, because they said from title sheet, our building was 32 feet high. So I don't know from what point that is. So let me just measure the height of this wall. That's 13 feet. Okay, so there's, the total height of the building. All right. So yeah, that would help me if I needed to know from finished floor to ceiling, 13 feet. But that still doesn't help me in terms of framing because, that's the ceiling. The framing is going to go above the ceiling. So that doesn't help me for framing. That just helps me just to know what the height of the ceiling is in that particular location. It doesn't necessarily have to be the height in the bathroom or anywhere else. It's in the location where I've measured it, which is in this equipment room. Okay. So also what they have here in the next couple of sheets here the item number or the equipment number. And they give us the responsibility matrix, okay, for plumbing and mechanical work and electrical work. Okay, so basically for the electrician and for the plumber, they're giving you your what you're doing and what you're not doing. Okay, so we know owners furnishing, the owners furnishing all of the stuff, because it's their equipment, or Sonny's. Okay, so we know the electrician's got to power up everything if it applies. Okay, so we know that electrical GC, we mean the electrician. We mean the GC, we mean the plumber. Okay, so electrician, all the MEPs, make sure you're looking for that responsibility chart. Okay, so look, for the plumber, they're giving you the sizes of the pipe for each particular piece of equipment. That's so important. Okay, so make sure these are the kind of things you don't skip over, and that's how you read it. Okay, there's tons of responsibility charts when it comes to, and really the responsibility chart in this case is just for the MEPs for that equipment. That's a lot of equipment. That's a lot of equipment. And this is a great project. Okay, so that is the equipment plan, view from above. Okay, and then we saw the elevation view where we can see that they're stood up a little bit, and how they actually look in real life. Okay, and all of the responsibility matrices that go with the equipment specifically to the MEPs. All right, we're going to go to the next sheet. All right, now we're going to go to the site plan. All right, so our site plan, view from above, we see our site. This is our car wash, the parking lot, the drive-through, everything that's there, okay? So let's point out a few things. We know that, first things first, any sheet, we have our scope of work. So whether it's the framer, drywall, uh, underground utilities, grading, you're going to have keynotes. And your keynotes are the words that are telling you what to do based on that set of plans. And sometimes you'll have that one keynote more than once. So you want to make sure that you're reading the keynote, and then you're applying it to what you see on the plan. Okay? And that's very important. Okay? So, plan view from above, a lot of keynotes, right, telling us what to do. Typical means wherever the sweeping hands, typical means we want it all within this area. That's what the sweeping hands mean. And typical means we want the same thing. So whatever 6 is, we want that all throughout this area, and we'll look at that individually. Okay, but overall, and then we have revision. Before they even get them going good, they have a revision bubble that's telling us something changed, and they should note that change somewhere. Okay, so what are we looking at? Here's the full site. Okay, we have the building, okay, which includes the tunnel that we looked at from the other pages, and the office building, and then the mechanical equipment. Okay, so for our site plan, it's telling us all about what we need to do for our site. Okay, we also have the vacuums. Okay, 7, we got some sweeping hands. We see we have the arrows. Okay, pretty straightforward until we look at our keynotes and it tells us what to do. All right, so 1 is the footprint. Now, 2, concrete sidewalk, finished joint lines, and final layout to be verified with owner prior to any forming. See civil drawings. Okay, so 2. Here's 2. Okay, so anywhere we see like that, 2, and we're going to see the site plan. That's going to give us more detail. Okay, see the civil set. Okay, this is the overall site plan. So we get a good idea. All right. Because it doesn't give us, landscape area. See the landscape plans. Vacuum. Okay, that's 6. C sheet, whatever. Okay, so this is the overall site plan. So you can get an overall view of what's going on there. Okay, so we have our main building. We have the vacuums, the vacuum control stations right here. Okay, and let me see 4 and 12. Let's read because there seem to be typical property line. What? 12, 4 and 12. Okay. Landscape area. Okay, per landscape plan. So really, I mean, it's just give you a good visual. I mean, this is not something you really use to make your measurements from. Oh, if you needed to know the building envelope, and it is to scale. So, if you had to know the building envelope size, you could go ahead and do that. But even the marks, where it says sidewalk, it's not even too clear. I'm not sure about that. Is this sidewalk too? That's kind of not clear. Okay, yeah, it is, huh? Two, but still, I don't like that. I want something to be a little more clear before I start making measurements. You know what I mean? So, building envelope, that's where we were. How many square feet? I may need to know that for whatever reason. It's just giving us a good idea of what we're doing, but no details on how to get the measurement right. And those will be on other pages, though. Got a little tilt to it. Okay, so our building envelope, how much area is the building taking up, which means probably also what's the size of the foundation. Okay, so our building envelope is almost 5,000 square feet. Okay, so site plan just gives us a good visual of our site. We get a good idea of what we're going to be building. Okay, gas station parking. That's 10. We also have a gas station with it too. Wow. Okay, we're going to go on to our next sheet, which is the dumpster enclosure plan. Okay, now we are looking at the plan view and the elevation view of the dumpster enclosure plan. Very simple. Okay, so plan view, view from above. We're looking here down. So we see these two gates pretty much, and that'll be keynote one. Keynote one, enclosure gate, and post. See detail 1 over A 1.3. How do we read that? It's telling us to look at detail and how we read that notation, whether it's telling us to go to a detail view or a section view or an elevation view. How we read that notation is we go to image or picture. That indicates the number on the top. And of course, the page number is the number at the bottom. So if we wanted to see the enclosure, gate, and post detail, we would go to, and which we will now, image number 1 on page A1.3. Image number 1. So, image number 1. And this is page, let me get the hand, A1.3. Okay, so this is image number 1. So it gives us more information about our gate, right? That was the detail plan. So the detail plan or the detail, okay, is the most specific of the views that you get. Okay, when you have a detail view, you can basically take your detail view and make a prototype from your detail view. Okay, because as you can see here, it's pointing to absolutely every part of the gate and explaining and telling you what it is. It's also to scale, so you can build it. You can take a measurement and you can determine actual heights, because for every 1 inch you measure, it's going to be 1 foot. Okay, so the detail view, we've talked about plan view, view from above. We've talked about elevation view, the lifelike view as if we're standing right in front of the gate. And this is basically a detail view and an elevation view. See, it called it a detail view on the previous page, but when we look here, they call it an elevation view. Okay, and so what do we see here? We can see that this is the footing for this gate. Okay, very specific, right? We can take these measurements, or because it's to scale, we can measure it ourselves. Okay, it's like the post, very detailed. Okay, so that's the elevation. Let's go back to the dumpster plan. All right. So yeah, that's the plan view. So chances are, right, these are some kind of CMU block and concrete bottom. It's going to give us all our details right here. Okay. So yeah, hand rub exposed portion of curb to match da 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 da, and masonry rear. We see how that's going. Okay, very simple. And now here's another view. Very good. That is the last view of the four. We've looked at plan view, we've looked at detail view, and we looked at elevation view. This symbol represents section view. Okay, and what that means is it looks like at the same location they want us to visualize two different section views, and one is SS 1.2, and I'm thinking SS is our structural set they want us to look at, but we're going to work on that a little later down the line. We will stay within our architectural set. Okay, so we're going to examine this section view. Section view is very unique. Circle, little hat, leg, and foot. And it's as if you take this leg and cut where you see, and you have a internal view of that. So let's go to 5 over A 1.3. Image number 5. Image number 5. There's 6. A 1.3. Okay. So yeah, it cut through that at that location to show you what it looks like underneath all of that. Okay. So this is more the masonry wall, gives you all the details. This is showing us some rebar. Okay. Where we need to go to architectural elevations for finishes and structural details for reinforcing. Right. Structural, if you're looking for steel, that's why they're not telling us the size of it. They're really not even giving us the size of anything here except for the standing seam, okay, metal panel, because that's part of the architectural set. Okay, but any concrete, CMU, rebar, all of that, these connectors, all of this is part of the structural set. Even these, okay, structural ledgers. Okay, and so we're going to get the detail of that from the structural set. Let's go back. Okay, so yeah, it's like, man, this is what it looks like. Okay, but and then let's look at, see, all of that, they're leading us to the structural set because that's all foundation. Okay, so yeah, we won't see that in the architectural set. And that is vacuum doors. Nice. All right, so that is that's hey, that's the dumpster. All right, and our next presentation, we're going to look at those. Let's go back to the site plan, because in the next sheet we're going to take a look at the vacuum enclosures. Okay, we had the dumpster. That's what we just looked at, is the dumpster right here. Okay, and now we're going to go look at the vacuum enclosures. Okay, and on this sheet we're looking at the vacuum enclosure plan and the elevations. It just looks like a smaller version of our dumpster plan. Okay, it's going to lead us to the same stuff. You know, we have the speckles that indicates concrete floor, okay, and our CMU block. Okay, so very simple, very simple. Okay, same views as we had for the elevation views. And remember that our SS they're referencing the structural set, so we're not going to go there. Okay, but it's the same 5 over A 1.3, 5, showing us just that elevation view. And remember, all of the roof framing and the masonry walls and the rebar reinforcement. Okay, the the reason why we see this, even the reason why we even have this detail, okay, remember the roofer, right? We have roof framing and we have a roof finish. Anything related to roof finish, because A plans are all about the finishes, even roof finish is in the A plans, okay? Where most of this references the structural set, because we have masonry walls, reinforcement, roof framing. So we see that here. No, nothing's given, but we have to have it here also because it references the roof finish. Okay, on that ledger, we have a pre-finished metal edging, okay, to match the metal roof, and then the metal roof itself. So we have to have this visual in the architectural set because the roof finish, that's where the roof finish is placed in the architectural set. Now, when we look at the structural set, we won't see anything related to that metal. Okay, and if they mention it at all, they'll say see architectural set. Okay, so remember, whatever set that you're in, if another set, the electrical, the civil, the structural, is mentioned or needs to be shown, as in this case, we can't look at any of the enclosures without the CMU being there. But the CMU is not an architectural scope of work. It's a structural scope of work. So, but we have to see it because it wouldn't make sense, okay, if it wasn't there. But in terms of details about it, what's the thickness, what's the size, number 3, number 4, number 5 rebar, all of that, that's not going to be in the architectural set because that is a structural scope of work. It will be in the structural set. Okay, so that's very, very, very important. Okay, so this is the vacuum enclosure. Okay, plan view, view from above. So if I'm the CMU individual, okay, I'm only gonna, no matter what you're framing, ladies and gentlemen, if your opening is shorter than 16 feet, 1/6, you just go through the opening. Okay, we consider that waste. So if you are the CMU individual and you need to measure how many linear feet of your CMU wall, well, then you just go through all of the openings that are less than 16 feet. If it's more than, then we have to deduct that opening from the total, and that's easy too. Just go through it and then determine that opening size in square feet and delete it from your total. Okay, so that's the vacuum equipment enclosure. Plan view and elevation view, and the section view simply for reference to the roofer because the roofing is a plan scope of work. All right, now we're going to look at the canopy plan. Very interesting. All right, so point of sale canopy plan. Okay, so the plan view, reflective ceiling plan. So this is the ceiling. Okay, and here are column sections. Okay, so anything structural again is going to be in the structural set. It's talking about some conduit, power and data conduit. All right, so it's coming up from the ground, out of the ground, up into the column, and that's what it's showing us is 2 different sizes, 3-inch. Okay, that's the roof drain, 3-inch roof drain, and then our conduit. Oh, it's coming from above, below. Okay, so Yeah, very interesting. Okay, typical lower wall construction, all sides. Thin stone veneer to match building. Mortar setting bed with metal late. Stucco wrap. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the column. And here's the elevation. Does it give us any information about our section view, about how our shoot the top is built at all? I don't know. It should be somewhere. Let's see. No, that's the attendant plan. Okay. So it must be somewhere, or it doesn't make a difference. So let's see. 3 and 7. 3. Let's see what 3 is. Okay. Yeah. We don't care. Canopy structure above and finishes by canopy manufacturer. See, that's usually the case in a really good set of plans. Okay, if we don't care, if it doesn't affect us, then we don't care. So we don't care. But what we do care about are the columns we have to build. Okay? It looks like we have to build these columns, and I don't know up to a point, up to this point, but most likely, let's see. All right, let's see. That's interesting. Okay, so let's see 2, what 2 says. Column finishes backup framing by GC. Okay. And E is its own little beast. Do we have A, B, C, D, E on here? No, but I'm assuming that, what's H? See, those are the finish, exterior finish keynotes, that H and all of that stuff. Okay. And yeah, here's our conduit from underground going up. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so that's the canopy plan. So depending on, what your scope of work is, the canopy itself, again, is from someone else. So let's see what these 12s are most likely the lights that have to be installed. Let's use the hand. The lights, and then, okay, and then number 1 are our canopy. So, our columns. So, yeah, we're going to go all the way up to the top with our columns. And that's easy. That's easy. Okay. So once we do the takeoff for for every part of this set, right? We're just reviewing the architectural set, but then we're going to go in and do the takeoff for certain scopes of work. And then you can see in more detail how we do have to break all of this down in terms of measuring, and then breaking it down again in terms of man hours and getting that all together. Because, that's really why you have a set of plans, right? So you can look at the set of plans, make measurements, and turn those measurements into dollars. Okay, so here is the canopy plan. Interesting. The canopy itself supplied by someone else. Now, we didn't look into all of this, and let's see what that is. 6, 9, 8, 4, 6, 9, 6, kiosk, base plate, chase, da, 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 da. Okay, 9. Okay, we can do that. Okay, arm. Yeah, see, we now we can go back and look in the responsibility matrix to see for certain who's doing, who's supplying them. I'm sure they're not asking us to supply it as just a GC. I'm sure it's their manufacturer and everything, just like the top. All right, so that is the canopy A plans. But as you can see, a lot of things in the A plans are going to reference you to another set. Okay, so next we're going to look at the attendant shelter plan and the details. Okay, so let's look at the attendant shelter plan and a bunch of other stuff, which is really good. All right, so our attendant shelter, where our attendant is, here's the elevation views, right? And now we talk about elevation views. Those are the views that give you the lifelike picture of what it looks like as if you were standing in front, right? So you'll have interior elevations and exterior elevations. And this, what we're seeing here, these are the exterior elevations, meaning we see the outside, the exterior. And so any building, right, is going to have 4 sides. And so you should always have, for building, 4 views, 4 elevation views. So It's showing us here the right elevation, the rear elevation, the left elevation, and the front. Okay, and so what do we have an elevation plan for? Mainly the elevation plans are for the finished trades so they can scale the plans, which they are to scale. And me as a concrete mason or whatever, I'm able to determine how many square feet of CMU block I have or whatever this is made out of. And I can also measure the rim of it and kind of determine what that area is or how many cubic yards. If that's concrete, how I can really determine it from the area, breaking it down into pretty much this section and then that section. I can determine area, and then I can determine cubic yards. Or if this is a stucco, right, I can determine how many square feet of stucco. If I'm caulking, then I can determine how many linear feet of caulk I need around the windows, all of that. Okay, and so that's what the elevation views help you see. Okay, it helps you look and make and see in real life, and then yeah, you can go in there and make measurements. Now, what we also see here are we're sectioning off the building. Okay, and what this shows, we have wall section views and building section views. A wall section view, it's as if you took, say for instance, a loaf of bread is a wall, and you wanted to see what the interior makeup of that wall is, right? From the top of the piece of bread to the foundation of the bread. Well, that wall section view is as if you cut that bread in half, you split it open, and you stood right in between. And if you stand that right in between, right, you can see, and it's a miniature version of you. You can see the top of the bread, you can see the middle, how it's baked, and you can see the bottom. And that's what a section view does. It cuts wherever that lump, remember the section view marker is the head, the hat, and the long, in this case, the building section leg and the little foot. So what this is saying is I'm cutting the building in half here, and I'm going to open it up so you can see the interior construction of this thing cut basically in half at this view looking forward. Okay, and so to see that view, we're going to look at image number 1 on page A1.5, and that would be here. So image number 1, let's find it. Image number 1, here we go, that's 3. And no, they're never in order. Why they go backwards is beyond me. Okay, but they do. They'll start with 9, 8, 7 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so what are we looking for again? Image number 1, A1.5. This is A1.5, image number 1. Okay, and so yeah, we cut that attendant booth in half, and now we're standing on that side looking in. Okay, and we see everything. We see maybe that's a window, maybe I don't know what all of this is, but we see the interior construction of that. All of the walls below the window. Now, if we're the framer, which is why we have this, because yeah, I need to frame these walls and figure out what's going on here. Okay, so if I'm the framer, I can use this view to determine how many linear feet of wall below the window, how many above the window, above the, oh my goodness, I'm losing it, the header. I'm losing it. Okay, how much above the header? Because in this portion, okay, this portion of the project is a structural component. Okay, anything above an opening, whether the opening is window or door, this is part of the structural component. This is the header, right? So, for instance, you're going to have a header all the way across here. Anywhere you have an opening is the header. The top part is the structural portion, and all of this is the A-plan portion, except for any concrete foundations, any rebar. Because this may be CMU block, then all of this is going to be in the structural set because it's a structural scope of work. Very crazy. Okay, so foundation, footings, Okay, all of that. And the roof framing is a structural component. The headers are a structural component. Okay, so that's our section view of that. And then we did it again here, where image number 2 now is instead of okay, if this is the front, then this is cutting it in the back. Okay, if this is the right elevation, okay, this is the left elevation, and this is cutting it at the left elevation. Okay, so section view again, building section 1 over a 1.5, that's here, as if we cut it and now we're standing in there and now we can see. And then this one, section 2, here. So instead of looking from, like in this view, we're looking in one direction, and this one we're pointed in the other direction. Okay, so pretty simple, where we're looking in that direction and we see those 2 windows. It's kind of crazy, but that's what it is. Okay, the ceiling plan 5 and 7. Let's see what 5 is. What's going on that ceiling? Okay, vinyl cover gyp and suspended metal grid. So like a ACT, but gyp. Okay, so here now, where do these come from? Okay, so we have plan view. This is a good one because on this one sheet we have all of the views. We have plan view, section view, detail view, and elevation view. That's a good one. This is a good one. All right, so plan view. Shelter reflect the ceiling plan, shelter plan. What's the difference? This is just the ceiling. Doesn't really give us, I mean, it shows the walls, but it's not referencing the walls at all. Okay. This is the shelter plan. So this is from looking from above. The plan view is the view from above, as if we are hovering over it, right? But in this case, for the plan, we took the ceiling off because we also have a ceiling plan. And the plan, when we say the plan for a plan, we're always talking about how the walls are built. Okay, if that's what we're always talking about, is how, when we just say plan in the A plans, okay, because we'll have ceiling plan, roof plan, furniture plan, okay, and those are specific, right? Roof plan, I said roof plan twice. Roof plan, ceiling plan, furniture plan, everything plan, bathroom plan. But when you just see plan, you know those are walls. Okay. And so my shelter plan is giving me all the information I need to build my shelter walls. Okay. And from a plan view in terms of framing, yes, we can determine how many linear feet. And again, if the opening is less than 16 feet, we're just going to include that in our opening. Okay, we're not going to deduct the openings. You can for waste or whatever if you need, just for your personal information. Okay, you can, but you don't need to. Okay, so shelter plan is giving us instruction on how these walls are built. And within that plan, we see a section view marker that's going through both sets of so-called walls in a up-down direction, right? In a vertical direction. And so, again, this is a wall section view, where this one was the whole building section view. Okay, so the wall section view is going to give us specific information on how our walls are supposed to give us specific information on how our walls are built. And so again, the section view action is as if we took his leg, right, and cut the building. Like here's our piece of loaf of bread. So we cut the building, okay, and now we open it up and we're standing right where his leg is and we're looking in that direction. Okay, so 1 over 1.5 Okay, that is here. So now in terms of, and we see we got it again. In terms of walls, now we can determine the height of the walls. Okay, and we're going to include that whole height, the whole height of the wall from the roof to the foundation. Or if we just wanted to, the length of the wall under the window. And we know we're going all the way around. Okay, and so where we see the same thing, whether it's the wall section view or the building section view, it works the same way. If we're the roofer, okay, we're going to look at that section view because it's going to give us information about our roof. Okay, so now I said this sheet holds all of the views: plan view, section view. Now we're going to go to detail view. Okay, so 3 over A 1.5, same page, but you see how it differs from a section view marker? That's a detail call out. That's what that's called. You put what you want to reference inside of the rectangle or square or circle, and then you're going to go to image number 3 on page A 1.5 to see the detail for what you don't see there. Okay? There are a lot of details in terms of whatever it is we're going to see in a minute that you don't see there. Those are called detail callouts. That's a detail call out. It's calling out what's in here. So let's look at 3 over A 1.5. 3, somewhere down here. Let's see. Here we go. And then we have another call out from the call out. We have 2 call outs from the call out. Okay, so let me back up. So this was our call out. That was the first one. 3 over this page. 3. That was that one. That led us to 3, which is this one. So why did it do that? Okay, well, it didn't tell us anything about this, and it's still more call outs. Okay, so it wants to tell us, okay, run plywood full height. That's new. Stop FRP at the bottom of the ceiling. That's new. Return FRP and plywood at head and jam. Da da da. That's new. Okay, but again, our callouts taking us to more callouts on other totally other pages, and that's what. Okay, so similar means it's the same way on the other side of the door or of the whatever. It's on the, yes, on the other side. Okay, so plan view, view from above, section view. It's as if we took the leg and we cut it. Okay, and these two are leading us to each other. Okay, took the leg and we cut it and we see that view. And then the detail view, detail view, which is signified by a detail call out, gives us more detail. And I always say when you go to the detail view, you're at the most detailed of the views. Okay, now unless it sends you to like the structural set, because any headers, which is what this is, headers are not in the architectural set. So to see the size of the headers, if this is a 6-inch wall, it's probably 2 by whatever, 3, 2 by whatevers, right? Together. And so, you know, the detail view is the most basic of the views. If you wanted to make a prototype of your wall, you don't need to go any deeper than this. You could make it from a detail view. That is the most basic of the views. If you're going to leave out plywood, if you're going to leave out insulation, if you're going to leave out this, that, or something else, caulking, whatever, it's because you didn't go to this detail view. The most basic of the views that puts all the smaller component parts together. Okay, so plan view, simple, simple, okay, not a basic view, okay. Very simple. You can measure how many linear feet, but you don't know the size of the wall. You don't know a lot of stuff. Section view helps us know the height of the wall. And then detail view gives us details, okay, details about the final product, okay, where we can't miss it, where we can make a prototype if we had a detail view. So if a quiz asked you which of the views could you use to make an actual prototype of that particular call out, you're going to say a detail view because that is the most basic of the views. Or did I say I get it is the plan view is not the most basic. That's the broadest of the views. And then we go to a section view that makes it a little more detail, and then the detail view is the final one. Okay? So it's important to know how to go from view to view to view. The framer used the plan view to measure how many linear feet. The roofer can use the roof plan to measure how many squares. Okay? The painter can use the floor plan to measure his walls, but you got to be able to figure out height. The roofer has to be able to figure out his insulation. Can't do that from an area on a roof plan. You're going to need a section view, a section of that roofer, a section of that wall framer from top to bottom, so you can see a section of that wall insulation person. Okay, plywood, anything. So we go from plan view to section view to detail view. Okay, the more detailed, that's the final view. You can't go any lower than detail view. Okay, so this was the attendant shelter plan, and it showed us all of the views and how we roll from, and plan view doesn't have a symbol. It's just what it is. Okay, and we know when we see plan, shelter plan, floor plan, something plan, we know just plan, we know that's walls that we're going to build. Otherwise it would be ceiling plan, roof plan, furniture plan, equipment plan. You would know. But if you just hear plan, chances are, oh, those are the new walls that are being built from the floor up. That's why they call them the floor plan. Those walls are built from the floor up, where the walls in the ceiling plan are built from the ceiling down. Okay? All right, that was the attendant shelter plan. And next, we're going to go to construction assembly types. Okay, in this sheet, we are looking at all of the construction assembly types. Okay, so when we talk about an assembly, we are talking about all of the pieces and parts we put together to make that particular, in this case, wall. All right, so the assembly is the putting together of everything. In this case, it's the framing, it's the insulation, it's plywood, it's vapor barrier, all of that. It's the assembly. And it's showing the contractor how to put his wall together. So when we do our framing estimate for each type of wall, so for B2, there would be a line item. And it really depends. So the framer may not be doing the brick veneer, but he's going to exclude that. She's going to exclude that. And the framer may also not be doing the plywood because those are considered other scopes. Usually the framer frames the walls. They don't do the plywood. They don't do any of the rough carpentry like, the plywood on the roof or anything like that. More of that we see in the structural set. Okay, so it really depends. And so when you put your framing estimate together, are we talking about structural framing, S-plan framing? Or are we talking about A-plan framing is what we see here. Okay, so these are walls that are framed in between all of the columns that are already there that we put in place using the structural set. Okay, and so you have so many for this project. And all of them may not be used. Okay. And how do we know they're marked? Okay. So when we look on the floor plan, it's going to be a rectangular figure of some kind, boxed out, showing us which of these walls go where. And so what we're going to do is, and ceilings it looks like too. Okay, ceilings too. Or floor, all the assemblies actually. Okay, ceiling and floor. Okay, all the different assemblies they have here. So they'll lead you to this page, A 2.0. So when you look on the floor plan, it's going to have, and when we will, these marked out is going to lead us here. And what we're going to do as the framer, what do we have to do? The floor plan is going to give us how many linear feet that we have of each type. But then we have to look at a section view, right? The view where, we cut it in half and we can see it from top to bottom so we can determine the height of the walls. And that's what we want to do. So for the framer, they definitely need the plan view. The view from above helps to measure accurately how many linear feet of each of these assemblies we see on the floor plan. But then we have to find a section view that we're led to as well, so we can determine the height. Okay, so you can have any kind of assembly. You can have a roof assembly, wall assembly. As you can see, they have ceiling assemblies, everything. And this is a good sheet. It's really easy when you have something like this to be accurate on what they're asking for. I like it when it's like this because it's really easy. All I have to do is determine how many linear feet, and then I can go line item to line item. Now, your framing, and that's what I like. Your framing will probably be higher than your drywall or whatever. And so you want to always, even if it's an assembly, you want to accurately determine how many square feet of both. Your drywall may only go up a certain point, or at some point it may be RFP. So you want to make sure you are measuring accurately. That's why you need that section view, so you can see what portion of the wall is drywall, what portion of it is FRP, and all of that. So plan view gives us easy access to getting how many linear feet of these assemblies, but then we have to look at a section view to determine the height. Okay, the next sheet we're going to look at is the slab plan. Okay, let's look at the slab plan. So if we are the concrete professional, we want to make sure we have this down. So this is a good one. This is a good one. So let's look. Concrete stem walls, A, top of concrete wall at top of slab, da 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 da. Okay, let's take a look. All right. So, all right. I mean, this is unique that it's not in the structural set. That's very unique. That is just unique that it's not in the structural set. But okay, let's take a look. So we're looking at the plan, right? Showing us the plan. Then it's got some section views in here we're going to look at. And this is where the cars drive in or out, I'm sure, one of these. So this is, we're going to take a look and see what it is. But I know this is the tunnel, and then this is the mechanical room, and these are the offices where I'm looking. Probably they got some showers or something in there. So, all right, so let's take let's take some looks at the section views that they have. So let's start over here on the left and work our way over. And so they got quite a few. So this one, 1 over A 2.1, this section view is going all the way through here. I'm pretty much sure that 1 over A 2.1, yeah. So that would be this one. Okay, so what do? This section view, cut it right here. So now we opened up both ends and now we're standing in there. Okay. And we can see slope based on elevations, 4-inch PVC. Okay. So yeah, we got us a nice little slab plan. This is what I want to know what we're doing right here. So let's look at 3 over A 2.3. 3 over A 2.3. I'd like to see how this is created. A over 2.3. 2A 2.3. 2A 2.3. Okay, 2. Let's go to 2. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I wanted to see how we have that going there. And then we just have more section views telling us what's going on here. Okay, and so this is a concrete trench, I'm assuming. So we got to figure out some, and it is to scale. Okay, oh, it's giving us how many inches? 10 inches. So 1, 2, 3. Let's look at 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Where's 1, 2, 3? Okay, first pour, second pour, third pour. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay, that's nice. We can do that. Okay, we can do that. Trench pit section at exit. We can do that. That's easy. All right, let's go back to the slab plan. So, what we're doing here, I would start by most likely getting these walls, measuring these out. 9 over A, 9.0, 8, 9.0, and then 7, 9.0 changes here. Okay. And 11, typical. 11, 11 is probably all the way through here. Mm-hmm. So this thing is section view heavy. So you just got to figure out how you're going to break it down. Okay, you're going to need all of the views. Okay, now we can measure our area. Okay, and this, let's go over 3 over A. How they break this down? What is this? See, we did what was that? Okay, which is this, but I want to see that. Okay, 2 over A 2 3 2 2. Okay, typical section. Okay, and then the section at exit. And so the only difference would be how you would mess with this completely is, okay. So we go from the slab plan. Okay, we know that certain sections take this one. Okay, 6 over a 9.0. We know that this is so many feet long. So let's measure that. 316. 3 over 16. All right. So for every 3/16 of an inch is really 1 foot. All right. So let's go back to this one. 3 over A2. Okay. So I'm going to measure that length because that is the whole length except for right here. And I'm thinking we're going to break that out right here. Okay. See, 2, 2, 3. And see, I want to see where it's making a difference. So 3. And what we do is take it from where the section is forward. And then see, we have a section here. And so we're going to break that off. We're going to break it off right here. Actually, where this comes in, we're going to break that off right here, this section view. So if I had to say, if I had to measure, this is what I would do. I'd say 4 over A23, 4 over A 2.3. I would measure that from here forward. I'm going to measure it to the end. And then I'm going to go back here. One over A23. I'm going to measure from where it breaks it here, because that's the only difference. That's different than all of that. And then here I got to see what we have that's different here, that breaks up the difference between this one and this one. All right, so we'll go here, 1 over A 2.3, or both of them, huh? A. Okay, and so I know how many linear feet of that one I have. I'm going to start here, just to there. I'm going to go all the way to the end. And so we have a section view here. So we're going to break that up here. What is the difference between, why would it be, and you know what, I'm just going to look. What's our big difference here? That the sections would be different. 2 over A3 and, 3 over A23 and then 2. What would be different? Oh, the stem wall is here where, I don't know. Oh, well, this is 8 over and this is 7. So, like, why is there a difference? So let's look at 3 over 2, 3. 3 and 2. 3 and 2 over 2, 3. 2, 3. 3 and 2. 3 and 2. At tire switch. Okay. Typical. Okay. So at some point there's a tire switch. A tire switch. That's where we transition from one to the other. So let's go back and try to find tire switch. Tire switch. Oh, well, let's look. We gotta look at the notes and see if we can see anything that says tire switch. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No. A tire switch. All right. Well, tire switch. Where would tire switch be? Somewhere in the 8 plans. Okay. Let's see. Here and here. And there's no indication at all. Let's see. 8, 2, and 3. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in here. It's somewhere in there. But it doesn't say. And that's a control joint. Okay, so what we're going to do, just for not go crazy, and depending on what we do in the other plans, we'll be able to determine the actual length. So we're just going to go from this point here to here. This might be tire switch. Who knows? Oh no. Here to here. Okay. So let me just make those lines, because the purpose of me doing that is to go there and show you how it helps us in the takeoff. and then we're going to go from here to there. Okay. Oh, too far, but it doesn't make a difference. All right, so let's go back to 2 over a 2.3. 2 over a 2.3. Okay, 2. Now, we know that we had, that was 62 linear feet of this. For instance, it's one of the links that I made. Yeah, 62 linear feet. So in terms of your takeoff, you know whatever these are, you have 62 linear feet of whatever that is times 1, 2, depending on whatever K is. See what K is. Conveyor per car wash equipment supplier. Okay, good. We don't have to worry about that. But what we do have to worry about is whatever it's encased in, because that is concrete. Okay, so we have to determine how many cubic yards. Cubic yards are 3 lengths, right? We have 62. That's our length. So in terms of, if we had to do it very specifically, we have we have to break this up into 2 of these. That, let me do this. Oh, let's set the scale because, all right. So we know we have 62 linear feet of whatever this is. So we have 62 feet of, because we're the concrete contractor, we have 62 feet of this. No, so 62 feet times zero point 0.2 square feet, but we have 2 of these. So zero point 0.4, if you really want to be specific. All right, so that's 0.3 times 62 feet. And then we have 62 feet times this area, and that'll give us another cubic foot total, because we measured that length when we from that section view of 62 feet. Okay, so I guess that's what I don't know what that does. Maybe that's our scope of work, maybe it's not. But still, here, this is our scope of work, right? So we have 62 feet, and this is like the foundation of it, the bottom. We know it's 10 inches thick. Okay, so that's our 3 dimensions right there. If we wanted to know how many cubic yards of this base it is, it's 10 inches. That's one of the dimensions. Well, no, actually, no, because we did the area. So the area is 5.5. The third dimension, because area is 2 dimensions, the length times the height, right? So we just did that, which is 5.5. The third dimension is the length of that whole portion, which is 62. Okay, so 62 times 5.5 gives us the amount of cubic feet. And then we divide that by 27, and we know how many cubic yards of concrete it's going to take for that. Okay, but still, I don't feel good about it only because it's not in the structural set. And when we look at the structural set, we're going to look at this again. I'm almost certain of that. Because there's got to be some reinforcement that they're not showing us, right? So we know it's 10 inches. Let's see what circle 1 is all about. Oh, we don't even have circle 1 on here. Oh, yeah, we do. First pour. That's all it tells us. Okay, so when we look in the structural drawings for trench and slab reinforcement, I just said it. Here it is right here. So, let's just talk about this being in the A plans. It's just for fun, okay? It's really just for fun. Because if I'm the concrete contractor, it's not helpful. Okay, you see me trying to figure stuff, I'm like, something lots missing. It's just for fun. That's all. Okay, so that is what was that? That was the slope, uh, the slab plan slope. I've done a million of these already, just so you can see. Okay, see where it's going. But yeah, it's all on the structural set. Actual lengths and stuff. Just want to show you what it looks like. No need for all the other shenanigans we were trying to do. Okay, here it is right here. Shows you where it begins, and it's just the thicknesses of it is different. It's like it moves in, and then this has another little slope difference, so that's why it's showing us a little different from here to there. And this is just the end of it, so we're going from here to there. Okay, so yeah, the slab plan. Okay, and with the slab plan, they're showing you all the penetrations too through the concrete. Okay, so really it's just, I mean, again, it's for the architectural set. It's not for the concrete contractor or anything of structural nature. It's just really just showing you where everything is going to be and is. Okay, so that is the slab plan. After this, we are going to look at the actual floor plan for the car wash. Okay, now we're finally getting to the project itself, the floor plan. Floor plan are all of the new walls coming up from the floor, and in the assembly plan, I believe, in the assembly, what was it called? Oh, I don't know. In our assembly, construction assembly types. Okay, that's where we reviewed all of the notations that you'll see here. And yes, we have a bunch of section views because the floor plans for the framer, so they can measure out how many linear feet of wall. But then we also need to know the height, and that's where the section view comes in, right? It's the vertical measure, right? It's as if we cut it, opened it up, and then we stood in there and we saw all the internal construction of each of the walls. And that is, yes, that is what the framer needs. And the floor plan is going to always have that on it at some point. Because, yeah, the architect knows that that's what the framer needs. And the plans and all the notes and all the symbols and all of that, remember, those are really just notes from the architect saying, if you want to know how this is done, go here. If you want to know the details about where we're at right here, the details of the construction, then you need to go look at this picture on that page. Okay, so every time you see one of these symbols, they're important. Make sure you always pay attention to them. Okay, now on the floor plan and the section views related to the floor plan, I mean, anyone that's working on any aspect of the project, those section views are for you. And I say that to say, for the framer, I always say framer because, yes, section views are typically used for the framer to determine heights of walls. But also, the roofer can use those same section views to determine the framing details. I'm sorry, the roofing details, the type of roof finish, the insulation, cant strips, everything related to their scope of work. The insulation professional can use the section views because it shows the construction of the walls and they can clearly see if there's insulation, the thickness of it, and all of that. So the floor plan's vital because it gives us a way to measure how many linear feet of each type of wall that they mark is. And two, from our floor plan, we also count our doors. That's where our doors are because the framer also installs the door frames. And so, yes, somewhere down the line, we're going to look at the door and window schedules, okay, and get a clear understanding. Every door is going to have its own number, its own mark, and that will be also associated with that same mark on the schedule, and it'll tell you all about the door frame, even the door finish. Okay, so when we look at the floor plan, we're looking at representation plan view, right? The view from above as if we took the ceiling off, and we're looking at the internal construction of the building. Okay, this is our tunnel where the cars go through. This portion is the mechanical room and the equipment room where all the chemicals are stored and somehow, delivered to the tunnel. And then this is the admin area. And so the floor plan again is going to tell us all the new walls. It's going to be based on the assembly, construction assembly that we saw. So B3 and B2 are a particular type of wall. H6, H7 is a particular type of assembly, and all the way down. So that's what the floor plan is giving us. Which, what walls and what are they and where are they? Okay? And it's very easy. So we just start to make measurements based on, it's very simple. The plans are to scale. Okay, so using the floor plan, we can determine how many linear feet. But we need to know the height of the wall. And the section views, we have wall section views, keep in mind, and we also have building section views. And you may have to use a building section view to determine the height of a wall. It depends on really what they give you. And in this case, we have a lot of building section views. They're a building section view when they start at one end of the building and go through the building and come out the other way. We know that that's a building section view. And then they've named them image D on page A6.3, image C, da da da. Okay, so we'll look at those. But those are building section views. And they also have, where's this section view? I think that goes all the way through the building as well. So the one from here to there. A lot of, sets of plans will just have wall section views where it just goes through the wall and you know exactly what's going on with that wall. Okay, but this one, they have chosen to use strictly building section views. So we'll take a let's look at D over A6.3. D 6.3, okay. Now, this is a building section view. So what did it do? It cut the whole building in wherever it was at. And okay, and now we are looking into the internal construction of the building. And so we know, depending on where we were measuring, okay, were we on this side measuring this side of it? Because now we know the height of that, okay, to the roof rafter. Okay, and that's what we want, the height of the wall to the roof rafters. And then above the roof, what do we have going on? Okay, so yeah, all of this is very important. This is wall E2. And so now I know the height of wall E2 from that perspective. Okay, so let me go back to the floor plan. Okay, and so where was I looking? I was looking at here. Okay, so those two, I was looking here. Okay, going through the whole building. One portion was the tunnel and the other portion was the business office. So let's go back and try to see if we can tell what's what. D over A63. D. Okay. Well, we know that's the tunnel. Oh, no, we don't. We know that's the tunnel. It tells us. Okay, so that's the tunnel, and that's the business office. Okay. So we know that, simple. Very simple. And yeah, those are all the things we were looking at the slab plan. Okay, and now it's gonna take us back to 2 over A2.3. We already saw that. We don't care about that because we're not building that. That's not part of our walls. That's part of the concrete foundation. Okay, so yeah, I know that my business office to the roof rafters is a certain height, and then above the roof rafters it's another height. Okay, so that's how we do that. We go through the openings unless they're more than 16 feet. So let's go back, floor plan. So that's what we're looking at. Okay. And so if I'm the framer, I'm going to set my tool to the scale of 3/16 equals 1. And then I'm just going to start to measure A2, like the believe the thicker part of the exterior is A2, and then B3. But we have a large opening. Is that larger than 16? So we're not going to go through it. We're going to do. Uh, we're going to have to determine the area and deduct it from going through it. Okay, because we do have a portion above that door or window that we need to account for. So that's what we're going to do. I normally start at the exterior walls, okay, and then make my way into the interior walls. How do we know what's a load bearing wall? So once we're into the structural set, we'll look at all the footers, all the footings, and all the continuous footers, whatever, and all the columns, and then we will see any of the walls that are built on top of those continuous footers are structural walls. Okay, that's why it's really important if you're a demo contractor that you understand, how to read all of the plans, because you need to make sure, and they'll tell you to ensure that you're not about to knock down a structural wall. They're not going to tell you. You have to tell them. Okay, so yeah, if it's built on a continuous footer, then it's a structural wall, right? I'm almost certain, one or two of these that come in the building are structural walls. Okay, so that's the floor plan. All new walls coming from the floor up, and they're all marked. And all we got to do is make our linears and then go to either the building section views or wall section views to determine the height. Okay, next we're going to review the reflective ceiling plan. Okay, now we're looking at the reflective ceiling plan. The reflective ceiling plan does just that. It reflects what's on the ceiling. We don't care about the walls. We don't care about any of the floors, any of that. And it just shows us what's on the ceiling in each room. Okay, it has tags associated with two things. Okay, one, the height of the ceiling, and two, the finish on the ceiling. And of course, it's going to tell you which room you're in. So it'll give you the room tag. So the office is room 108. I know that the height of the ceiling in the office is 10 feet 4 inches. And it looks like I have some, and this is typical for acoustical ceiling tile. I have some 2x4 and acoustical ceiling tile, and I'm not sure, seeing I didn't look at the finished schedule, if F1 is fixture 1. Yeah, it's fixture 1, not finish 1. Okay, so ceiling plan, everything on the ceiling. Okay, whether it's the ceiling finish, which is in this case a lot of acoustical ceiling tile and probably nothing. Okay, nothing in the tunnel, but a lot of acoustical ceiling tile. We always have drywall in the bathroom. We've got a soffit here, but got some questions about it for some reason. And yeah, so everything on the ceiling. And so what you see is ceiling finish. You'll see also the supply grills, and we did see fixture 1. And why do we do this? Okay, if the purpose of the reflective ceiling plan is just to give you the ceiling finish and the ceiling height, then why do we see everything else? Well, we see everything else because the ACT professional needs to know how many spaces will be deducted in that room for supply grills, return grills, or they need to know how many of the ACT tiles need to be adjusted, fitted for things like down lamps and stuff. Okay. And so, yeah, that's why we show everything. It reflects everything in the ceiling. So each of the professionals know. It's like, oh, okay, in this room, I'll need, I have two supply grills and one return grill. Oh, in this room, I'm going to have to adjust or fit one, two, three of my tiles to fit the lighting. Or because it's a 2x4 light, right? Then I won't need a 2x4 tile in that room. And so they'll do their math and they'll determine for each of their individual finishes for uh, for that ceiling. So it's not for the HVAC professional. It's not for the lighting electrician. It's not for any of them. It's strictly for the finish trades so they can see and determine how many square feet of ACT or JIP, or for the painter for sure, how much ceiling needs to be painted, what needs to be painted on the ceiling. So we take our measurements here and then we go to the finish schedule to determine which room gets what color, how, is the wall painted all the way up to 10 feet or whatever, or is there even paint on it at all. Okay, so reflective ceiling plan reflects, shows everything in the ceiling. And of course, you're going to go by your keynotes, whatever your keynote tells you. Okay, and you're going to make sure you have it there. But again, why is everything in there? Because each of the trades needs to know, how much, the painter, how much of this is getting painted. Oh, okay, this much. I can go to the reflective ceiling plan and I can measure that out. Okay. So it also has details, just like every other of the sheets. And so it's telling you the acoustic ceiling cross connector, how they're connected, so the professional knows how everything is supposed to sit in there, how the, lights and runners and this and that or something else, okay, is running in there. Okay, so next we're going to look at the roof plan. We're getting close to the end here. If I can find my mouse. There we go. Okay, so now let's talk about the roof plan. Now, the roof plan in the architectural set, of course, is our the finishes, right? The roof finish. And so when we look at the plan for the roof plan, right, view from above, we're going to see everything that makes a hole in the roof, because it is the roofer's job to make sure there's no leaks. And so, yeah, we're going to see all the rooftop units. We're going to see exhaust fan vents. We're going to see all kind of vent to roofs and, typical. Yeah, anytime we see that little circle, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, we're going to see the outline of the building. And of course, the roofer's going to have section views as well, so they can see every detail about if their roof is like a sandwich, right? Every detail from the top of their finish through to the roof framing, okay, in that sandwich. And so we always have a couple things when we talk about the roof, because the roof is to have an angle so that water and snow and whatever rolls off of it. So you'll always see the pitch of the roof, and that means that it angles a quarter of an inch for every 12 inches. Okay, so that's almost a flat roof. That's not a very in terms of this roof, it's almost a flat roof, and I think the pitch is pretty much the same on all portions of the roof. Okay, so that's what we see. And then the sweeping hands are for, most likely, it's the roof number. Let's see. Let's look at, oh, see what we see up here. Okay, tapered rigid insulation cricket. So the cricket and the gutter and the downspout and all of that. Okay. All right, so the cricket. Let's go to the parts of the roof. So why do we do a cricket? Crickets are usually in areas of the roof that are really flat, and so we put some roofing, and that was one. We put some roofing at an angle, where it'll be higher here than down there. It almost look like it's tilting higher here than down there. So water will get out of these almost flat corners and go into the gutters. Okay, so that's additional framing over the flat framing in order to produce an angle to let that down. So it's usually in the areas where the roof is flat or water may sit here at the rooftop unit. We never want it. Okay, I think they might have a little one here at their exhaust fan. Okay, so yeah, for the roofer, we're just going to measure how many squares, and then we'll take into account uh, the pitch. But the pitch in this roof isn't enough to take into account. It's not like shingles or anything. So uh, yeah. Now section view, of course. So let's look at that. 180, 130 LDT over A 6.3. Okay, let's see what that is. Okay. All right. So here's our roof. Right, here's our roof, and we're going to look at that. But yeah, we're going to look at this because here's our roof. 5 over A 4.2. 5 over A 4.2. Let's see what it's telling us. 5, yeah, 5 over A 4.2. Okay, so yeah, here we go. Roofer, what do we got to do? Rake detail. Okay, and so this tells us a lot about our roof. This tells us everything we need to know. So just like the framing, we're going to take linear measures along the perimeter of the roof, because this is all at the perimeter, right? The metal edge, the drip edge, the continuous, da da da. So we're going to measure linears of that, and then we'll know how much we need, right? We do the segments just like we do framing. How many linear feet of each? Okay, well, we come to this view, the section view, and that tells us how many linear feet of that. And, for the roofer, is the roof finish coming over the edge, that kind of stuff, So it's telling us everything. Snow guard at the eave, da 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 da, standing seam. So I know what kind of roof I have. Okay, the plywood, I'm the roofer. I'm not doing the plywood. Okay. I'm doing the roofing, everything associated with that roof and the sealants and all of that around, all of the openings in the roof, all where wall to wall meet. Okay, so that's what the roof plan's all about. Okay, so let's go again. We have a high roof, okay, and here's the high roof, and then the lower roof. And yeah, we have to make sure where wall to wall meet. That's leak proof and where all the holes are. And let's look at a lot of roof details. Okay, so the insulation, a lot of roof details. Okay, and really all of these come from the plan view where we took the linear measures. Right, section views, that's what section views show us. If we cut there at the leg or at the building, this is what the interior construction looks like. Well, at the cornice, we've got the ephes. Okay, so let's see what install roof up over wall and over plywood, da da da. Okay, so when it comes to your finish, right, roofer, not only do you do the flat area, you got to account for what's coming over and down the wall too. That's why they show you all of these section views and all of the detail views, so you can't get it wrong. Okay, so that is the roof plan. The plan for the roofer, view from above, shows you all the holes in it. And two, it's going to give us details on how we prevent holes. So, 13, let's see what it's saying for 13. See HVAC drawings. Because what is this? This is the architectural set. So the HVAC drawing is going to give you everything about the HVAC and also everything about all the construction around it and the roof curb and what is required for that. I mean, typically in the roof plan, they should have had, let's see if they got details about, see, they have details about the roof drain and how it's supposed to be, collar sealed, form flashing, da da da. Okay. Should have the same thing, or they do have it somewhere else for the rooftop units. Okay, so that's the roof plan. And next we're going to go on to talk about interior elevations and exterior elevations. We talked a little bit about them before, but we're going to take a look and just, that's part of the A plans. Okay, let's talk about the exterior elevations, right? The elevation view is the view as if you're right there in the parking lot and you're standing there and you can see what the finished product is going to look like. Okay. And so, like everything else, it has a keynote, it's telling you what everything is. Okay. And then we just, figure it out. Go to the keynotes, read it, make sure the plans are to scale, which they are, make our measurements, and produce our estimate. All right, so exterior elevations, who are they for? Well, the finished trades, so they can see how much A, how much K, how much M, how much all of this, do their measurements accurately because these are to scale, and come up with an accurate number. Okay, so interior elevations is I'm sorry, that's the next video. Exterior elevations are the outside of the building. And so every building should have 4 sides. And so, well, unless it's like a hotel, sometimes they have, 6 or depending on how it's connected, like this one, you should have 4 sides. So it's showing you the tunnel elevation. Okay, so this probably will have, different views. So exit elevation, okay, the tunnel elevation, and then here we have the entrance of the tunnel elevation. So the entrance to the it looks like, yeah, just the tunnel, because that looks like closed glass. And then the office elevation. Okay, and so yeah, if I'm any one of these, if I'm doing C, then I'm going to go up here and look at C and what I got to do. EFIS, texture, sand, color, paint 6, morning fog. All right. Okay, so all of this, everything you need to do. And again, interior elevations, exterior elevations, is just about the finishes that are there. So if you're that finished trade, you can make your measurements. Okay, very simple. 4 sides because the building has 4 sides, so it's going to show you the 4 sides, and we go from there. Next, interior elevations. Okay, here we are looking at some interior elevations of whatever room it is telling us on the bottom. Okay, so just like exterior elevations, each room should have 4 views. And that's pretty much it. Okay, each room has 4 views, meaning it has 4 sides. Okay, it's the IT 109 room. 4 sides. So basically, what is it for again? It's not for the drywall person because their scope of work would be more detailed in the floor plan, but it's just telling you here that finish is gyp and it's probably going to be painted. But we're going to look at the finish schedule because the finish schedule is going to tell us what goes on each of the 4 walls and the ceiling and the floor per room. Okay, but just know interior elevations work just like exterior elevations. A room should have 4 sides, which it does, and each of the elevations reflect that room. What I want to make sure we go to, here we go, and we will go over, we didn't go over it in detail, but this is the enlarged office. So when we had the floor plan, let's go back to the floor plan. It should have showed us, yes. So you see the dotted line around the office. That's telling me that there's a call out, which is what we just looked at probably, 3L-1 A70, 7.0. This is a call out. And what this is telling us that there's more information when we go look here than what we see here. So in terms of the floor plan and what we could have done here, basically, I mean, the floor plan is intended for us to measure the floors from the ground up. That did it. That's fine for this because all of the walls have the marks, so I can measure that. Okay, so let me go back to uh, the enlarged plan, which was here, because what I want to show you are the interior elevation markers. Let's go here, enlarged office and floor. Okay, so that call out from the floor plan is the enlarged office area, and this is an example of an interior elevation marker. Okay, interior elevation marker. There's no leg, there's no nothing. It's just in this way, it's just how they do it, right? So we know we're going to look at page A7.1. That's the page number. But what these are telling us is what picture on that page. And so this is just an easy way to do it all at once. So if I want to know the finishes, if I want that elevation view of this area, then I'm going to look at what? Image number 4, because it's pointing in that direction. Okay, image number 4 on that page. If I want to see this wall, of course, image number 5 on that page. Image number 6, okay, if I want to see this wall where the door is. And image number 3, if I want to see this. Okay, so let's go to 7.1 and look at all of the interior elevations for the customer restroom. All right, customer restroom. Okay, let's go back because let's find the number 105 because it doesn't say customer on that other one. Okay, and what did we say? Let's go back. Let's go back to enlarge. So we want to go to A7.1, 3456. 7.1, 34, restroom 105. Okay, there we go. Oh, why did they just say customer restroom 105? All right, so what do we have here? Interior elevations for the bathroom. And so I know now if I'm that's some kind of wall tile, okay? I know how much I have because I can measure this very easily. And if I'm the painter, I can measure that too. And I'm probably painting the doors as well, but the door schedule will tell me that, what the finish is on particular doors, because each of the doors have a number. That might be door 105. It may be, or they just put that there because it's room 105. Okay, and two, if I'm installing all this stuff in the bathroom, I know where it goes. I know the height. I know, everything. So interior elevations gives you that lifelike view of each of the rooms. And again, the interior elevation marker should be showing you 4 positions because the room has 4 walls. Unless it's an open room, right? A lobby or something where, one of the walls are open, but I'm sure is like some wings on that wall or something that it should be showing you. So interior elevations, important for the finished trades. So again, they can measure their scope of work and put a value to it. Now, let's look at the door and window schedule next. Okay, now we are looking at the page that contains our door and window schedules. Okay, so it's a reference door and window plan. Okay, and so we know that the wings, those are doors, and the windows, of course, are on the exterior. And so each of the doors are going to have its own number, even though it is the same exact size, type, paint, everything. It's going to be listed on the door schedule. Okay, so let's take a look at the door schedule. So each of the doors are listed, even if they are, again, the same size, width, height, whatever, thickness. Each door has its own mark, and the door schedule tells us everything we need to know. So it marks the type of door, because here we'll have all examples of all the doors and the windows on this sheet. So it tells us what kind of door it is. It tells us the frame, whether it's hollow metal, aluminum, wood, in commercial, it's either aluminum or hollow metal, that. And the glazing, whatever, hardware set, everything you need to know about the door, and the finish too. Okay, paint, whatever. Okay, so it gives you all that information, and that's important because if I'm the framer, I'm also installing all the door frames as well, and so that is very valuable to know. If I'm the painter, okay, if it says paint, I need a cost to paint the frame, because that's a linear man-hour number when you're doing frames and trim, and there's more labor involved in that as opposed to just painting the door. And so yeah, you need to know the frame length, right? Both sides of the frame. Don't leave out the other side, the outside and the inside of the frame. Okay, those kind of things. So gives you all that information. And windows, even if you have the same type of window, where we got windows, even if you have the same type of windows, here we go, same type, same size, whatever, they're only named once. So if I had a hotel, right, and a 5-story hotel, okay, and they all have B windows, how do I know how many B windows I have? I know how many doors I have, because even in that situation, each door is individually marked and named, but not with windows. Okay, so in that case, you'd have to look at the what? Exterior elevations. That's where you see the windows, and they'll have a B on it, and you have to count it. You have to do the counting on windows. But doors, remember, even if they are the same size, type, whatever, they're all marked with a different number, and they're all in the door schedule separately. Okay, so keep that in mind. Just because we have B here one time does not mean we only have one B window. So you got to make sure you check. Okay, so let's check, because they gave it to us for reference. So A, B, C, we got 2 B windows right there, and 2 A's, and 100 B. I think that's the garage door kind of thing, opener. And we have 2 C windows, a D window, and an E window. And yeah, okay, so you got to do your counting. And then we had some up here too. Is this a window? No. A Y window? Oh yeah, a Y and a Z, 2 Y's and a Z. Okay, but as far as this is concerned, they have them one time. So you have to do your counts. Okay, windows and doors treated totally different, totally separate. All right, and last but not least, we are going to review the finish schedule. Okay, very last but not least is the finish schedule. Okay, finishes, Division 9. So no matter what it is, that's where your scope of work is going to be located. Okay, and the finish schedule, and this is the last of a zillion of these, and I'm going to make this public on YouTube, because at least everybody needs to know the basics. And this was a good 2-hour exercise in learning the basics. All right, so the room schedule. Each room, right? The room name, the floor is in the flooring. Okay, real simple. All right, the base and everything else. Okay, the walls. Top of the wall. Top, bottom, right, left. Top, bottom, right, left. Mm. Walls. Top, bottom, right, left. You know what? I don't know why they top, bottom, right, left, walls. Top, bottom. It's more like north, south, east, west on walls. They got me on that one, guys. They really do. But we'll figure out, you'll figure that out when you're looking at it, what they mean by top, left, right. Okay. So each of the rooms and then each of the finishes, normally it's north, south, east, west walls. Okay. The floor base, and then the ceiling. Okay. And it gives the ceiling assembly here. Oh, that's interesting. Ceiling assembly. And that's good because I wasn't really sure what the tunnel was doing. So that's good that they gave the tunnel and vapor barrier, probably VP2, whatever that is. So yeah, I was wondering what we were doing on the tunnel because the reflective ceiling plan had nothing. And so yeah, if the plan, if the well, no, the floor plan, whatever, has reflective ceiling plan has nothing, then you always go here because you'll know exactly what finishes go where. Okay, uh, very simple. Very, very simple. Material finish. I'm still confused with top, bottom, right, left, but okay. And all the everything you need. Okay. Everything you need. And they're giving you the specifications where to look. That's nice. Okay, because yeah, gypsum is a finish. All of that's a finish. Yeah, yeah, that's nice. So you know where to go to read the specifications so you know exactly what to do. Okay, here's all your paint. So if it says Sherwin Williams, don't get the Costco brand because they're going to know the difference. Okay, so you got to make sure you use what they tell you to use. And that's the finish schedule. Each room, okay, finishes. Each room is going to tell you top, bottom. I don't know what the top and the bottom is. I'm going to figure that out. Top, bottom, right, left. So north, south, east, west walls, the ceiling, the floor base, and of course it's going to reference the room. And this is the conclusion of a very long video, and I hope you stayed to the end. And please give me your comments on it and what else do you think you needed to know. All right, this is Stacy with SF Johnson Consulting and Construction Services, and I'll see you next time.